Hi, this is Ed. I'm going to do a tutorial on how to install a local server, install a website to it. I'm going to use evolution-xtreme, and then we're going to transfer our development site from our local server to a live web server. It should go pretty quick. Just follow along. The things that you will need are well, you'll need the latest version of evolution-xtreme, which I've already downloaded to save time, and Wamp Server. You can get Wamp Server from WampServer.com. I switched to English so I could find it. And just depending on what version you want to run on your PC, whether it's 64-bit or 32-bit, it's not really going to matter as far as the PHP setup between your local server and a live web server. What you do want to make sure of is that you can you can download the 64-bit with the PHP 5. I believe this one has PHP 5.4.3. You can download this and then install 5.3 if you want to, or you can just download the 5.3. Either way is fine. I'm just going to, the one that I downloaded was the 64-bit with 5.3, and that's perfectly fine. And then you would, of course, get evolution-xtreme 2.0.9D from evolution-xtreme.com. So once you have that, all you want to do is just double-click and install it. And if you have a slave drive or something, you can install it onto a slave drive. That would be perfectly fine. In my case, I'm just going to install it on my local C drive. And I'm just going to go with the quick launch. We'll go ahead and unzip this here. All we need out of here is the public HTML, so we'll just grab that. We don't really need any of the other folders or anything at this point. If you feel that you need them later, go ahead and get them. Right here, we're going to select our browser, the default browser that's going to be used with Wamp Server, or with your Wamp Server. So what what I would recommend is not using Internet Explorer because Internet Explorer is a horrible browser. I don't recommend it be used by anyone ever. I use Firefox and I use Chrome. I'll even use Opera and Safari, but Internet Explorer is not something I would use. This right here, I would just go with this, unless you have an SMTP server that you want to use, but just for development purposes, if you're not developing a mail program or anything like that, I wouldn't bother with it. And you can go ahead and just launch your server. You have an icon over here in your taskbar. Once the server started, it'll be green, and then you can go in and you can set everything up. If you go into your local host, that's just going to load this up, and then you can, once you have your projects in here, which are your sites and virtual hosts, that's where you will find those sites at. You can go to your PHP info. Now, what we need to do is make sure that if you have a site that you're developing locally and you're going to be moving it to a new server, you want to try to get the settings as close as you can to the server settings. If you don't know what your server settings are, you can quickly create a PHP info file. And you can do that just by opening up a text editor, and we'll just type PHP info, and And we'll save this file here. We'll just call this php info.php. And we can go ahead and close that. Now, on a live server, we'll just go into our file manager. Or if you have your FTP up, you can do that. I'm just going to go ahead and upload this. And once that is done, you can go here. Now you can see what the web server is running. And you can make adjustments to your PHP settings on your local server to match as close as possible. So the way that you make those changes, and I'm not going to go through all of them here, just simply because it would take too long. What you will do is just go into your Apache. There are a few service modules that you may or may not want to turn on. There's some that you will want because they are used on a live web server. It's really up to you and how you want to set up your local server, though. Then you have your PHP settings, which you have your the PHP settings, and then you have your PHP extensions, such as curl, which you are going to probably need. And then in your PHP settings here, you do not want register globals. I do recommend turning on enable download. Now when you turn these things on, it's basically going to restart the server every single time. So we don't really, that's why I don't have time to go through all of that. Now we do need this public HTML folder here to install evolution-xtreme. And all we're going to do is we're going to go to our computer, local disk C, and then our Wamp server, and then we have our www folder here. In here, we're just going to copy this folder over, or move it in this case. And so we have everything here. I'm just going to rename this, I'll just rename it Extreme. And now if I go to my local host, I'll have Extreme in my projects, and I can go here, and now I can actually just go into install.php. I do need to create a database, so I'll have to go in here and then go into phpMyAdmin, and I will need to click on databases. And what I'm going to do is I'll just call this one Extreme as well. I do want to set the correlation for that database to UTF-8 General CI, and I'll go ahead and create that database. Now, on a default install of WampServer, your username and everything for your password, or password and username for the MySQL database, is always going to be root and no password, or your database name and no password. So what we're going to do is just roll through this, but in this case here, we're just going to skip through. We don't have the htaccess file. We don't have the staccess file. Although they exist in here under evo.htaccess and evo.staccess. That's why they're saying they're missing. Just skip right on past that. Now in this case, we have our database host is localhost. Our database name was Extreme. Our database user is root. We did not have a password, and I'm just going to leave the rest default. You can switch over to MySQLi if you want to. You don't need to, and I would just recommend using MySQL. Confirm the data, go on and run through it all. And now we can go to configure our site. I'm going to skip configuration and just go to my home page. So my site's loaded up and now I can create my admin and everything go here. But first I need to delete the install file. Now because I am going to be moving this later to a live server, I'm not going to delete these files. I'm just going to rename them by adding a -1 to the install folder, and I'll do the same thing to the install.php file. Now I can go in and create my admin. Doesn't matter. I do my user with the same username as my admin. I'll just submit. Now we're in here and change over to the new style real quick. I will go ahead and clear the admin tracker. I wouldn't worry too much about setting up the general site info on your local server. You can, you don't have to, but if you want to, go ahead. There's not a lot you really need this for until you're on a live server and you're going to have people registering and posting in the forums and setting up your cookies and everything there. So I would just, wait. The forums are default, so what I'm going to do is just make a couple small changes, such as the blocks. I'll just activate all of these here. Let's refresh that. So now let's just assume we've developed our website the way we want to. Maybe we go in and we create a new forum or something. This is that. Just keep it simple. Create a category. This is just basically if we were developing a new website and we get it all developed the way we want to, and now we're ready to move it to a live server. All we really need to do is go into our local host, into our database here, and what we're going to do is we're going to export the database. We're going to use the custom. We're going to make sure that it's select all. And then we're going to scroll down here to the object creation options. We just want to uncheck the add create and if not exists. And then we want to scroll down to neither of the above and click go. And scrap that. Now we need to grab our files, which are here, and I'm just going to create a folder over here on my desktop, and I'm going to call that folder public HTML. And I will just copy everything into that public HTML file. And it's I'll go ahead and download the database real quick. All right. Now, since we're inside the public HTML folder, What we're going to do is we're going to highlight everything, and we're just going to zip it up. And I always test the archived files, make sure they're okay. We do need to open up the database in an editor. Just, you don't necessarily have to do this. I do this all the time. Just erase the top part there, and then I go to the bottom here, and I erase this section here. And I always get rid of the no quiz where it's not needed, especially when you're moving to a new site. So our database has been edited so we can upload it. We have a public HTML file that we can upload. So we're done with our local server, and we can go into our cPanel. Now, I just need to go into the file manager, and where I want to be is, first I can delete this file here. I don't need it anymore. I can go up a directory, so I see the public HTML folder, and then I just upload this public HTML zip file to this root. Why that's going there, what we'll do is we'll go into our MySQL database, and we'll create a new database, and we'll just call it testing. I'll just create a user called testing as well with a password. I'll just generate a password here. That's fine. I do want to add that user to the database. Now in this case, since we created our database on our local server with the UTF-8 general CI, we want to go in once this database is created. We want to go into phpMyAdmin on the server, and we want to make sure that we switch this database to UTF-8. So we want to go into operations, and then we're going to go to correlation here, and we'll just scroll down here to UTF-8 general CI and click go, and that's done. Once that is done, then we can just go into our import here, and we can browse for that file. The SQL file is right here. Just click open, and we'll just click go. We'll let that go ahead and import. See if this is done. This is complete. So now we have our public HTML.zip, and we can just click on that and then click extract, and we're going to go into / public HTML. We'll just extract those files. Now our site is in here. Now the reason why we kept this here is because we are going to need these, we're going to need to run this install, but only through the first couple steps, just so we can let the server set the permissions for us, so we don't have to manually set the permissions on the server. So now that we're on the live server, we can just go to the install.php, and we're just going to go through step 1, step 2. This part's done, so everything's been set. The chmod or the htaccess, which does exist on the live server, is already done. The staccess file, it's still fine. You just need to remove the evo from the front of it if you're going to use that file. You can continue to step 3, but at this point you really don't need to. So now we can go ahead and delete the install folder and the install.php file, and then we can go to our main site, and we're going to have a problem with our database. If you have a problem with your database, there's only one reason usually that will cause that, and that's that when I moved from the local server to the live server, I didn't update database information in the SQL. So we want to go in here and find our config.php file. Let's open that in Notepad. And here we have our localhost database username, and our password. And that's the password that I had copied out of the from the user when I created it. And now we just need to change the database name and database username, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was the same. It's just Killigan_testing. So we'll just use that real quick. Just copy them. And now you can do this through FTP. Since I'm already in the file manager, I'm just going to do it through here. I'm going to click the overwrite the existing file, and I'm going to go in here and grab the config.php file, open. One other thing that you may want to go ahead and do is, since you were on a local server and now you're not, just go ahead and go into your includes, go into your cache, highlight everything that says Zend in front of it. Just highlight it all and just delete it. That way your cache is cleared. And now when we go to our site, everything should load up just fine. And I'm already logged in. And all I want to do now is go in and set up the configuration for the site at this point. So that way, now everything will be working. And then I need to go in over here to the forums, make sure I set my cookies in the general admin configuration. General port settings, this will be, I can worry about the rest of that stuff right at the moment. I'm going to set the cookies, which will be .killigan.net and then just Killigan. And I can click submit, and everything's good. Now, my site's ready to go. It's on the live server. Everything's fine. I can go and look at my posts, and I can launch my site, and we're good to go. There's some other configuration settings you might want to do once you're live, but for the most part, that's it. We are set up on a live server from the site we developed locally, and you can make your modifications on your test site, and then once you know that it works, you can always move it over to your live server. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to let me know. You can contact me at evolution-xtreme.com, dfgdesign.com, dfghosting.com, or hostdemon.com. Thank you.